everyone, and welcome to Heart of the Matter with me, Stephen Chia. Now, last year, the first batch of homeowners collected their keys to move into Tengah, HDB's 24th public housing estate. And this is being positioned as Singapore's eco-friendly, smart energy town. But the first batch of residents who have moved in have taken to social media to list out a whole bunch of complaints, so to speak. Poor internet connection, leaking and condensation issues of the central cooling system, or CCS. So we want to find out just what's going on. Are these just common teething issues when, building a new estate, or do Singaporeans simply have higher expectations? Okay, welcome guys. And just to add that we did invite HDB and SP Group to join us today. HDB declined to come on, and SP Group said they wouldn't mind, but at a later stage. So we might go back to them again at a later stage. But let's start the discussion with you, Jun Jie, because Singapore has been building, residential estates for many years now, and there are always some teething problems. I mean, leaks, cracks, things that can be expected. Tengah is a huge new town. It's a bit larger than the average one. There are 5 districts. So what goes into the planning of such a massive new town? How is it different?
I think there are a couple of constraints we need to think about when we think about Tengah. Firstly, there was pretty much nothing in Tengah when the estate was built. And secondly, its connectivity to existing towns, not as connected as other towns that we've built in Singapore. I think a good parallel would be Punggol. Punggol was also built from scratch. And if you remember, Punggol had issues with transport, connectivity, and even until a later stage, questions about amenities. So I think there are teething problems. They are quite common across many estates. For Tengah, it's exacerbated by the size of the estate. It's huge. And secondly, there was COVID. So there were all these delays to the process.
If you don't have the infrastructure to support the people living there yet, then don't let the people move in yet, right?
Well, there are also people who are vying to get the keys, start renovations. So there's a trade-off to giving them the homes fast and making sure everything is ready before they move in.
How should we manage expectations? What can I expect when I move into a new town? How fair is it for me to expect that there's a bus stop, there's an MRT, there are a few shops?
Right. So I think for the basic infrastructure like roads, bus stops, MRTs, these things, my sense is there's a great effort to make sure that they're running. Not always smoothly because these are very new infrastructure. The shops, I think, are a more difficult kind of amenity to ensure. It's a chicken and egg problem. The shopkeepers may say, wait, there are not many people living here.
Exactly.
Why should I be selling my stuff here? And then, people move in and say, hey, there are no shops. There's nothing to buy here.
Yeah. So who goes first? So Nick, how many years does it take for a town to sort of settle down?
We are actually a nation of instant trees. At one moment, the road is bare, and then 1 week later, you got adult trees. Yes. So Singaporeans begin to expect miracles are the norm. But I don't think we can really blame the homeowners, because in a way they have put in their hard-earned money to buy their biggest assets of their life, their HDB flats. So at the very basic, you should have some access to public transportations, right? The buses should be running. Maybe the MRT station is still under construction, but the buses should be running. There is some basic shops or clinics, healthcare services. But the response is that, or at least from the authorities I've heard, is that, they can actually take the public transportation to nearby towns, like for example Choa Chu Kang or Jurong East, and or take the train to Jurong East, and then there you've got your shopping malls and so on. But I think that from their experience of developing Punggol, which is a greenfield site, and now you have a very big greenfield site at Tengah, they should have learned from that experience and get some of the shops and transportation ready. Fair. Some of the bus stops are not built where the residents would feel it more convenient, but those are remedied very quickly. I think in the defense of the town planners is that they respond quite quickly.
It's maybe a question of incentive. If I can maybe give cheaper rent to the shops for the first 6 months, maybe for the buses, I can provide a shuttle service that is free for the first 3 months. Little things like that to help people tide over that transitional period. And a lot of it is about managing expectations. So why not do all of that here? Have they not done it? I mean, is that why people are so upset?
I think they have, but the thing is that It's a multi-agencies effort, right? It's not, people very often point the finger at HDB because that is their first point of contact. But HDB has subcontractors and they have to deal with LTA and other departments that basically have to put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. And sometimes the pieces might not arrive in time or might not go in the right places.
We did speak to a Tengah resident, Mr. Satish Kumar, who is moving in soon, and we want to hear what he had to say.
The biggest issue that I've had was transportation. I think the need for a feeder service to at least bring us out of the area was important to me. I do understand that this is absolutely new town that I've created from scratch. It will take time to see some sort of development. For me, the basic things are really important.
So he's saying maybe a bus that can take me to the nearest, more civilized town for the time being,
As Nicholas has mentioned, this multi-agency planning of the roads, not necessarily within the ambit of HDB. And as we remember, there was a huge demand for the keys to be handed over. And the nearest town is Bukit Batok, which is why they released Plantation Estate first. But there are difficulties with that connectivity because it's new, it's so far away. So going forward, I think managing the expectations is going to be quite important.
Senior Minister of State Amy Khor did say that, infrastructure work and accessibility in Tengah is going to be out of sync for a short while. How short or how long, we don't know. But we do know that things get completed in stages. And it's true. I think people know that not everything will work. But the question is, are people's expectations out of sync with reality? Are we expecting too much as Singaporeans when I move into a new town?
It's a bit rare that we have actually a totally greenfield new town. Other than Punggol, many of the other HDB flats are actually built, even that they may be called non-mature estates, but actually it's an existing functioning estate already, right? It could be Sengkang, it could be even places like Pasir Ris, you already got malls, schools, transport system, everything is there.
It's not brand new.
It's not brand new.
And to add on to Nicholas' point, one of the more recent estates that were completed, Bidadari, is walking distance to Potong Pasir. So it's a very different kind of setup. It's not so disconnected as compared to a brand new greenfield kind of development.
Tengah sounds like this desert that we're transforming into a city, like building Las Vegas when it was just a desert.
Previously, Tengah is always associated with the Tengah Air Base.
Yeah.
There's a few chicken farms there. And other than that, it's basically all green,
Let's move in and talk about what is actually the biggest bugbear for many Tengah residents out there, and that's the central cooling system. Unlike air conditioners, this is a system that works by piping chilled water from centralized chillers to homes. So it's meant to be a solution that is more energy efficient than conventional air conditioning systems, and it's supposed to be more environmentally friendly and also cheaper in the long term. It's not new. We've seen it still being used successfully in Marina Bay Sands. But clearly there are still other issues. And we had a resident, Mitchell E. You'll hear her talk about getting news of water leakages from the defects inspection team.
I think end of last year, the first homeowners in Tengah collected their keys. And that was when they found out that CCS wasn't very cold and it came with some leakages. On the 13th of February, BSC team called my husband to inform him that they found a leakage in my unit. One of the bedroom was actually flooded. What happens if we were to go overseas next time and then we come back to leakages to a flooded unit?
Yeah, so of course, like any homeowner, you would hate to come back and see a flooded home, right? According to MND, these issues came about because there was insufficient time for comprehensive testing and commissioning by SP Group before key collection. And of course, they're saying this is because of many delays during the pandemic. SP Group has also come out to say that condensation issues are actually not unique to the CCS system or to Tengah. In fact, HDB receives an average of 715 cases of feedback per year on condensation in conventional aircons. Is it just a question of time that these things perhaps were rushed? They weren't tested enough. If we had given more time, everything would have been okay.
It's a combination of a few bad things all happening together. Pandemic, shortage of workers, and then the government also wants to help to cool the market and give the keys into people's hands, issue out the keys fast enough so that people don't say that, wow, I had to wait like so long to get my flats.
Right.
And another reason is that HDB has been handing out keys a bit earlier to the owners so that they can renovate their place earlier.
But is it a disconnect? You want to cool the market, so to speak, but then you end up not cooling anything, and that is a bigger problem. People become hot under the collar and are a bit more upset, right? Because imagine you're renovating, you're moving in, and you can't have a cool home. You feel uncomfortable, right? And unhappy.
Perhaps another thing is that lack of time to do all the testing. Because if, let's say, the system works in the Marina Bay area quite well, you're talking about a few big buildings, you pipe the chill water there, and then the engineers that's working for the landlords, they will manage that. But here, basically, HDB and SP has to manage every single flat.
Right.
So you have many other customers to deal with. If they want to make sure everything is working, they have to run the system, switch on the aircon for every flat and every room. I don't think they may have the manpower to do all the time to do that.
But then to the new owners or to the layman listening is saying, you've used this system before, it works at MBS, so why doesn't it work here? It's not like it's a new system. You've tried using it before. I mean, you may not be, I know you guys may not be able to answer this, but from my understanding, it's not really the same system. In MBS, it's running all the time, everywhere, all the time. Here, with the unit, some can have it, some may choose not to have it.
I guess with MBS, there was more of a luxury of time in building that development. It was not a pandemic. There was time to test everything.
Okay.
And here with the compressed timeline, some of the testing had to be done in tandem. And like what Nicholas has mentioned, manpower shortages. It's very hard to make sure that everything is comprehensively tested.
Then comes the question of who should pay for it. All this is happening. Residents are saying, I've incurred costs in fixing some of these problems. They want part, if not all of it, to be absorbed. SP Group has said it will waive all CCS usage charges until the end of the year, reduce charges from January 1st. In fact, it said that residents can also cancel the installation of the system, and they are reducing the cancellation charges as well. Is that going to help solve the issue, or at least manage expectations?
I think they're hoping that the residents will meet them halfway. Let's say they say, oh, well, it's going to be free for all. We, the authorities, will absorb all the costs. Then the next thing is that you might open a floodgate of a lot of cancellations. I would imagine there would be a minimum number of households per block that need to subscribe to this system to make it cost efficient.
That's right.
Yeah. So if too many people cancel, then in the end, Tengah may not be able to live up to its label of being green.
Nick, SP Group has also been upfront to say the issues, and they're working with residents to resolve it. But some residents, like Mitchell we heard earlier, saying they want out of the system because it's just too troublesome. In the long term, if you've just mentioned that it may not be as effective if many people opt out, will this also affect the overall resale prices of the units and the areas? One block more than another because one block has more units using it, one block doesn't.
This is the first time that HDB is installing such a cooling system in an entire town. So there has been no other precedents or examples. But I would imagine it should not. It should not, unless the system keep giving problems. If this new system keep giving problems, the buyer will mentally put in a discount. I wouldn't be paying you $700,000. Instead, I may knock off maybe 10% or 5%, just in case I have to come up with more money to repair the system. But I think that over time, and of course the team, the SP team and HDB team are gaining experience, the next few batches of the flats may face less problems. This is where sometimes being the first mover may not really give you the advantage for home buyers. And I think that to answer your question, no, I don't think there would be much difference whether you use the central cooling system or traditional aircon for this, because most people associate the two as it's just aircon, as long as they don't give me problems and maintenance or extra costs.
Okay, but if this CCS system keeps getting a lot of bad press, then people will say, "Oh, you have a CCS. I don't want to. I don't want that. I don't think it's going to work." Yeah. Then, okay. But there are a whole bunch of new other HDB flats coming up, a lot of them from Bayshore, Mount Pleasant. What do you think we can learn from Tengah? Are these, do you think this is going to be something that, HDB and SP will approach differently when building these other new towns?
I think there's definitely a lot to learn. We can think of Tengah as an initial test bed for the CCS system, and we can imagine that as we go along our green plan, we want to be low carbon, we want to reduce energy usage. The CCS is going to be an option that other future estates will have to consider. So this is a good opportunity for us to iron out the kinks, to figure out where things might mess up and to preempt these problems in other developments.
So if I'm a homeowner, now I'm thinking it's a new town, they're trying new things, but I'm almost thinking maybe I don't want to be in such a new town. Can I be in the second new town after they've tried the CCS somewhere else first?
But most of the time when it comes to BTO applications, the proximity to the MRT station or LRT station is usually determines how popular that project is.
That's right.
And I think that perhaps also the authorities can learn from this experience is that when you build a new town, the key things that must be running by the time you start issuing out the keys is public transportation, at least the buses. And the other thing is perhaps they should also get the supermarket running first, right? Because the supermarket can be the key anchor tenant in a development.
That's right.
Once the supermarket is running, all the other shops see that, well, you've got customers. I also want to open up my shops near the supermarket or around the supermarket.
Yeah.
So yes, perhaps they can work with, they can hold the tender, issue the license to operate the supermarket, and get it going the first time, the moment that all the first batch of the keys are given out.
That's a good point. Incentivize the supermarket to be there first. 10 years from now, when all this has been forgotten, people have moved in, living happily, everything, all the shops are there. Will people have forgotten? As long as property prices rise, do you think it'll all be just
I think so long as the systems work, we get the things up and running, everyone is comfortable, happy, people will more or less forget over time about all these initial teething problems. And all of us who have ever bought a new home, we face all sorts of teething problems, whether it's in the estate, in our renovations, and over time, these things just fade into the background. But the important thing is that the town needs to keep functioning well for the long term.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as long as property prices rise and don't drop, I think then everyone will be happy, right?
I think a lot of people forgotten about some of the complaints or even horror stories that came out from Punggol when it first came out. I think one article described it as a ghost town because the government was actually building ahead of demand, anticipating a lot of demand, and then there was the Asian financial crisis and so on. So there were blocks of flats around Punggol where it is you only see a couple of lights on at night, right? But right now, all this is forgotten. And the first batch of residents had the same complaints: no wet market, no supermarket, transportation not accessible, etc. Now it is one of the most popular towns. If and when HDB offers another BTO project at Punggol, one that is nearer to the town centre, the subscription rate will be very high.
We know that there are teething problems. We know that if it's a new town, there will be issues. Just like when you renovate your home, no matter how well the guy does it, there'll always be something that bugs you, and there'll always be something you're not satisfied with. But I guess the central cooling system, that is a big issue, because if that is your main aircon, so to speak. And I think really we've been facing a lot of hot weather recently. If people are hot, they're uncomfortable, they're grumpy, and they get upset, and they'll probably complain more than, if they were in a cooler environment. For all of you listening in, if you have comments about this issue, we want to hear from you too. Just get in touch with, you can find me on social media, or you can email us at cnapodcasts@mediacorp.com.sg. And also a shout out to the CNA podcast team: Saya Win, Tiffany Ang, Junaini Johari, Joanne Chan, and Crispina Robert. Our sound designer is Ken Delbridge, and I'm Stephen Chia, saying bye for now.